listening to For Change People, and we are joined today by our guest, Katrina Roddy. Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm good, good, good.
I'm so excited and happy to have you join in.
Yay!
So, we're going to be talking about elevator speech. And I think it's very important, not just for the audience who are listening, but for myself personally, because um, it was one of the topics that I wanted to actually talk about on the podcast. Yeah. And I was actually writing a script recently to talk about it. I actually titled the script Representation. What are we representing when we
Yeah.
stand or we go out there in public and someone comes up to us and say, hey, who are you? And so when I saw this as a topic, I was like, hey, we got to get you over here.
Oh, well, thank you. It's so important to me. It's your message.
Yes.
So it's just the way that you craft your message. And as an entrepreneur, for me at least, I didn't really tell my background or give my elevator speech, which I will do,
Yes.
but it really tells a message on where you were, what you're doing. And it could be chopped up in different ways, just to make it fit for your message. And so I hone in on that when I coach entrepreneurs, to make sure their message is clear, because guess what? People continue to ask for that over and over and
Over
over and over.
again.
And it
Yeah.
also is a confident boost. It gives people confidence in who they are now, because now they have a representation, like you said.
Exactly. It's more of like, hey, I know who I am, I know
Yeah.
what I stand for. And so, when someone walk up to you and say, hey, tell me about what you do, you, as you said, the confident level that you have, you're not going to be intimidated by the person who's standing in front of you. It doesn't matter who that person is, because you're confident in your brand and who you are. So before we get
Yeah.
into more, share a little bit more about who you are, your background, and just take us
You
in.
mean
Yeah.
you mean my elevator speech?
There you go. Yes.
So, again, my name is Katrina Roddy. I am best-selling author of Steal Your Skills from Corporate, and I'm also an entrepreneur coach. I coach on the mindset it takes to transition out of an employee status to becoming the CEO of your life as a new entrepreneur. I spent 30 years in corporate, 30 plus years. I don't know what the other part of it is, but 30 plus years in corporate insurance. And when I came out, I realized I was laid off, for one. And once I became laid off, I was trying to figure out my passion. So what I did was I took my entrepreneur spirit and I married it to my 30 years experience and
Mhm.
came up, to be an entrepreneur coach. And that's when I wrote the book. And that's where the story started.
Nice, awesome. So I started reading a little bit of your book, didn't get through all of it so
Okay.
far. And you were talking about the fact that, you started out young in the corporate world, and, you just started growing and growing, like, so what was one of the takeaway from that experience? You were young in the field and you started to rise above, other workers who were there before you.
Mhm.
Like, what's one thing that you can say, hey, the reason why I could rise that quickly, it was because of this.
It was because I opened myself up for opportunity.
Hmm.
Like, I never wanted to stop learning. There's this thing about curiosity that I think people forget
Yeah.
is, you have to keep curiosity as far apart as you can. There's a distance between your brain that says, hey, I know so much already, and then you shut down to other things. But when
Yes.
you keep curiosity wide and you keep reaching for something or trying to learn for more, then it just gives you that momentum to keep going for more. And when I started at a young age, I started at the age of 18. I graduated high school in June. I started my corporate job in July.
Nice.
And my corporate job became one of my classes for college because I went to a very strict business school. And it was just more of I go to work and then I go to school, and then my job would report to the school if she's dressed appropriately, she's doing whatever. So I did that, and that's how I got started so early. And then it just piqued my interest in wanting to learn more and keep
Yes.
going. And what about if I did that? And what if I did that? So the one thing that I would have them take away is keep your curiosity wide so that you can continue to open yourself up to learn for more opportunities. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes so much sense. Yes. I actually believe that because I mean it's yes, it's great to be in one level, but if you start to, envision or, put yourself to the place that you want to be, you
Yeah,
realize that it's all about your mind, as you said.
it
It's all
is.
about what you put in your mind. Like I have to share this as we're talking about mindset, let me see if I can find it. It says negative thoughts. I believe it so deeply, it becomes real. Positive thoughts. I believe it so deeply, it becomes real. Your choice. So it's
Oh
definitely
my
our
God.
choice.
I
Which
love
one are we
that.
gonna Yeah.
Yeah, it's your
So,
choice.
yeah, it's your decision. It's what you want to, choose at the same time. So, some rapid questions we're going to get into.
Oh,
So,
okay.
all right. So, if you could live anyone's life, if you could say, hey, I want to stop living my life right now and pick someone's life to live, who would it be and why?
Ah, so I always go for the mind, right? And I know people probably use this a lot, but I would definitely say Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos. Oh,
Yeah, not that I want to be an older white man, but his mind, the way he thinks and the way he creates opportunities for people, I
mhm.
feel like I try to do that as well. I try to create opportunities, and he's just a good thinker. He thinks things through, and then he takes a risk on things. So I would definitely say that.
Nice.
I was going to say
So,
Oprah because of her heart. I got a list of people. You can't just stop me at one.
go ahead. I'm not going to stop you at one.
I do. And I often tell people, like, my big dream is to be on the Ellen show,
Hmm.
but not to be there, on her show and receiving from her. I want to be the sponsor in the back. I want people to walk out with a big check and it says from Katrina. That's the person I want to be on the show.
Nice. That, that's always been one of my things, mission or goals that I keep close
Yeah.
to me where I want to have my name.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit on the platform. No, no, no. I want at the end when you see across your TV screen, you see my
Yeah.
foundation, my organization.
Exactly. I want to
That's
be the
what I want.
sponsor.
Exactly. I want
Yeah.
to be the sponsor. Yes. So
Good.
exactly.
Thanks for asking. That was hard.
But you were good. You got it. All right. If you were stranded like on a tropical island, what are two things you want to take with you?
um, a boat and a navigation system because I would have to get off that island. So, yeah, I don't
A
know.
boat and a navigation system.
Yeah, but to be all honest, I heal through music, and
Hmm.
so I'd have to have some form of music. And I guess I would power that through some type of satellite or some type of solar system
Yeah.
to power it through. But I live, like, music heals me. And so I would
Yes.
have to have some type of music just to, I believe that everyone has a song in them
Hmm.
and they just need to sing that. At one point I used to volunteer for an organization called Harmony, Hope and Healing. And that's what they did. They taught people, recovering addicts through healing of a song. Like, they would sing together, and people felt good when they sing. They
Yeah.
don't care how they sounded. They just wanted to, get that out, and that helped them with their confidence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it doesn't matter what you're going through in the middle of the day, as long as that song that keeps you going comes on,
Yeah.
you're good.
Yeah.
You feel relieved, you feel like much lighter, and you're like, hey, I can kick this. I
I
can
can
get
get
through it.
this. Yes.
So yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, definitely.
Good.
How do you normally start your day?
I do start my day reading affirmations.
Affirmation.
I have a huge mirror in
Hmm.
my bathroom, and I actually write on it with a dry erase marker.
Oh,
Make
nice.
sure it's not a permanent if you're going to do this at home, but because it's like a dry erase marker, you can erase it the same way you do with a whiteboard.
Whiteboard.
But I just write little things on there, things that I think will keep me going, and just
Yeah.
little things. It could be a smiley face. It could be, do this or do that. But I do start my day off with that. And then I exercise. So I've learned this new thing to do,
What's that?
and that is get up early in the morning. I now start getting up at 6, and I realize how much stuff I can get started before my day even starts.
Yeah.
So I'm like, just that little time makes a big difference. But yeah, I start
I
getting up earlier.
I am an early riser. Listen, I hate waking up too late. I feel like my day is already wasted. I feel like, what's the point? I'm not going to do anything. Like when I wake up early and I get stuff done, then I'm like, all right, I can chill in the afternoon. I don't have
Yeah.
to worry about what to do because I'm like, I already got that out, knock it out the way. But I do wake up early because I have to get to work.
And it's still quiet, right? That early in the
Oh,
morning is really quiet. So
nice
I
and
don't know what I was
peaceful.
thinking before.
Exactly. I mean, for me personally, I like the drive in the morning. I don't
Yeah.
like the afternoon or the midday. I don't know.
Yeah.
No.
Awesome. That's good. But I do. I bought myself a spin cycle over Christmas, and I
Mhm.
promised myself that I will get up and get on that damn thing. And so I do. And it's music that's playing, and it keeps
Yeah,
me going. So I'll get up and I'll
exactly.
do a little.
As long as
Yeah.
you have your music, you can go for hours
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
until your legs give out.
It's mind over matter.
What is an important life lesson that you have taken away from someone?
I learned a long time ago that I always say this too because it applies to my business and it applies to everything.
Hmm.
If you're persistent, you'll get it.
Yeah.
But if you're consistent, you'll keep it. And
Mm.
so I have to use that because I have a tendency of not being as consistent. I have to remind myself to stay consistent because I'll go,
Yeah.
and then I'll change and I'll do something. And I'll have and just that's just because of the way my mind. I was explaining to someone the other day that I could be cleaning my house and I have to drop off something in the bathroom, and then all of a sudden I start cleaning the bathroom. And I have to stop and remind myself, this is not the room I'm in right now. And I have to go back. So just keeping consistent in my business, keeping consistent in my life, those things will make me, provide stability. But you
Right.
have to be persistent up front to get it. And
Yeah.
once you get it, learn how to keep it.
Oh my God. I had the same like thought. Like a couple weeks ago, I was just sitting down and I was just like, oh my God, I need to stick to one thing. Like I keep going back and forth.
Yeah.
I keep like
Yeah.
moving from one stage to the other. And I'm like, I need to find one thing and just stick to it. And then I'll
Yeah.
go transition into other stuff. And it's so much lighter too with the work because then you
Yes.
overwork yourself because you're like trying to get everything at the same time.
No more.
And then it's like you're not keeping focused on what is important.
Yeah.
So what is it that you want to, make be the forefront and you're not making that the forefront? So then you're all over the place trying to figure, oh wait, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's
yeah.
exactly right. And I did a time management workshop, and they said, and part of my workshop was understanding what there are types of procrastination. And that's
Mhm.
actually one type of procrastination is when you keep skipping all over, but they
Mhm.
know that that procrastination is mostly with entrepreneurs. They go for shiny things. They're like, hey, look at that. That's shiny. I'm going to do that. So they labeled it
Exactly.
and said most entrepreneurs will fall in this category. And I was like, holy crap, that's me.
Yeah, because we are trying to do too much.
Do too much. Do too much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're trying to do too much. All
Good
right.
question. I like that one.
Oh, nice. Okay, so let's get into the meat and the matter, which is the elevator speech.
Oh,
Um, yeah. Um, For entrepreneurs who are just starting out right now, how important is it for them to even have a two or a one liner just to, share
Yeah.
with anyone they come in contact with?
It is extremely important because it's your message. It is your message and it's your way of being able to share your story
Yes.
without oversharing. So let me just say this. There's an elevator speech and there also is what's called a personal statement. So I started off when I did my conversation and you were asking who I am. That's my personal statement. That's one or two lines.
Yes.
But it becomes an elevator speech when you extend it beyond that, which I did when I started talking about how long I was in,
Mhm.
corporate. And then that's when you start to give the bulk of your story. So it's important because a lot of times we're taught not to be vulnerable, like don't share too much or don't, do whatever.
Yeah.
But when you have an elevator speech and you want someone to hold on to what you're saying, you have to share. You have to share enough for them to hold on to and say, I got that. I want to talk to them later. I
Yeah.
want, like, I have a catchphrase, it's a hook and it catches them. And that's why it's so important. A lot of entrepreneurs feel like they have to hold everything to the vest and they don't share as much. Part of what I do is when I tell people to make moves, and I won't go through all the acronyms unless we have time,
Yeah.
but the
Okay.
S part of moves is share your story.
Mhm.
Like moves is an acronym for, making some changes in your life, but the S part is share your story. And that's what the elevator speech is for. So it's extremely important for them to do that.
For them to do that. Okay.
Yep.
And what would be like a focus point in starting out? I mean, if, for example, if someone is like, hey, I have this business, I have that business, but they blend certain stuff together, but but you're trying to figure out, okay, what is more important? Like, what do I put forward first, or what do I
Yeah.
say?
Well, what's the core? I would ask the question of what's the core of what you do as a person, not the business you run, but what you do as a person. And that could be I teach someone, I strategize, I do these things in my business
Yeah.
that kind of crosses over both of them. So the starting point would be figure out who you are and what you provide and then craft your message around that. So when I say, I help with the transition. I could do any other job in there, but what I do that crosses over from my book and my company is I help with the transition. So I make sure that that's in my speech. So you pick some words that help you cross all of the things that you do, whatever those are.
Nice. It's like a link so
A
that
link.
others can put it and say, hey, okay, that's what you
Yeah.
do. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Exactly.
So I know that you got laid off from
Yeah.
your corporate job. And I was reading through your book, and you were also talking about your husband who he had his own business, right? And one point you were saying how, it was flexible for him. He could take
Yeah.
the kids, he could do what he wants, and
Yeah.
then he had to go to work. Um, you know, how was that transition for you? I mean, yes, he was, he already had his business and you got laid off. What was it like? What was like the mindset change that you had to go through to say, hey, I can do this too? Like,
Okay, so I was not married. That was the story I was telling, the example I was giving in the book. But I can tell you about the transition because a lot of things that I talked about in the book were actually me. It applied to me.
mhm.
So that transition was hard. And you come out of corporate and you don't want to believe that you just went through that. You begin to get, you're angry because you're
Mhm.
trying to figure out why did that happen to me? There's no rhyme or reason why it happened. So you have to stop blaming yourself.
Yeah.
I would be anxious. There was a lot of anxiety, like, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? Because you're only used to a certain thing, right? And so there was a lot of anxiety. There was some sleep disturbances. If I don't find a job right now, somebody's going to treat me differently or they're not. It was a lot of that. And it wasn't until I I started doing more meditation, I started doing more
Yes.
yoga, just eating right, exercising, and I was bringing everything back to me and these ideas started coming. Well, what if
Okay.
I did this? And the thing that it kind of focused me on writing the book at that point, because I'm doing these things to help other people. I
Mm-hmm.
would go to networking events and people would ask me, show me how to budget or show me how to do this. And I'm like, sure. And I would go show them because I was so used to helping. And it
Yeah.
was one lady that pulled me to the side and said, honey, you give out too much free information. This is your job. And I was like, oh, so I decided to take all of those things, the steps I had gone through to become an entrepreneur, and
Yeah.
put them in one place because there's no one that teaches you how to be an entrepreneur.
Nope.
And I'm only giving you the tip end of, like, I give you 8 steps to follow that I know people can follow on their own. They don't need my help unless you're like me who say, I know what the book says, but I need an accountability partner. I need someone to help me get through this, make sure I'm doing it the right way. And then there's a coach involved, but I give you the steps to help you get through this on your own. So that's when it all came about. And then all of a sudden, I created the Corporate Breakup, which is my company. And I focus on the coaching of the mindset and how to transition. I go through the 8 steps with them. I go through meditation, yoga, all of these things that I did to help myself in some fashion, or customize it to a point where it actually helps them as well.
Awesome. And then with the 8 steps that you
Mhm.
talk about, where can someone, if anyone's listening right now, hey, I want to,
Yeah.
join.
So I actually go ahead.
Go ahead. I
Oh,
was
I was
going to
going
say,
to
where
say
can they find it? Yeah.
you can actually find the 8 steps in my website. You can download the worksheet for free. The 8 steps are in the books, but you can actually go to my website at thecorporatebreakup.com, and you can actually just download the steps and fill them out on your own and try to do them that way.
Do them online.
Through there, oftentimes I may give a webinar too, but everything you need, I try to load up my website with it. So it's thecorporatebreakup.com.
Yay! So go on there and grab the 8 steps, and also get in contact if you're trying to transition or change your mindset so that you can, evolve in your business, grow more in your business. There we go. We have Katrina over here.
Yeah, I'll help you. I'll help you figure
Yes.
that out.
And she is ready and available. What does it mean to have a corporate breakup? Because I know, many people that are listening are like, okay, what do you mean corporate breakup?
Yeah.
So can you, share some more about
Yes.
it? Mhm.
So a corporate breakup is just what it says. It's a breakup. And when we think about a personal breakup, you go through a lot of times, we go through the same thing. You go through anxiety, there's anger, you may have sleep disturbances,
Mhm.
I don't know, chest pain, whatever it is that comes with that emotion. And you may have your friends that come over and they hug you and they say, we're going to get you through this. And shame on him. And all of this stuff happens, right? They may come over with wine or tequila,
Mhm.
whatever. They come over and they consult you, right?
Yes.
But when you go through a corporate breakup, you go through those same emotions. You go through the anger, you go through anxiety, you go through that, but people treat you differently. You don't actually get to move into a space. They're like, oh, that girl needs to find another job. So you don't get that same support that you get through a personal breakup.
Yeah.
So that's what a corporate breakup is. Either you were terminated, whatever they're calling it, terminated, canned, booted, let go, whatever they call it, you left. It's a breakup of it's separation of something. And
Yeah.
what I try to focus on is you have to heal from both of them before you move on. So
And,
that's what the corporate breakup is.
and for someone who's going through that stage right now, that corporate breakup,
Yeah.
um, what's one thing that you can share with them to say, hey, I'm not going to tell you,
Mhm.
because, people always say, hey, I know what you're going through, but every single person,
Yeah.
our experience are different. So, what's one thing you can just reassure them with, those that, it's
Yeah.
okay. You get back on your feet.
That I can assure you that you will go through the grieving stages.
Mm-hmm.
So the stages of grief where you'll go through and you'll realize, once you get through that, because I want you to feel that pain that comes with it, feel all of that so it can work as fuel for you to motivate you to move on. And then after you go through that is where I like to say you can make moves. And that's when I talk about the moves acronym to move on from that. So I want them to understand, go through the grievance stage because you will go through it like you do any other relationship. But don't stay in there long because when you come out, you're going to come out stronger and you're going to come out knowing exactly what your mission is and what you want to do. You're going to come out understanding that I know what's fulfilling to my heart and I don't want to do that again. I don't want to be in there. There was a study that I read with the APA, which is the American Psychology Association,
Mhm.
that talked about how people go through those stages after they leave a job. But I thought what I thought was interesting is that they also talk about the people who were left at the job are going through the same thing because they don't know when it's their time
Oh,
and they're
wow.
anxious and they have your work now. So now they're overworked. They don't know when they're going to get let go.
Whew, I know what that is.
So it's one of those things where I just want you to feel that pain, get through it, and then start making some accurate moves to move on.
Yeah. I that one hit me because I know what that is. Oh my God. My boss just came to me this week and she's like, hey, someone's going, so you gotta take, and I'm like,
See?
what? I gotta do
I don't
what?
want that.
Exactly. But I
So
mean,
you
you know what?
know,
That's the corporate world for you, you know?
yeah. So at one point, being an entrepreneur is not for everyone. So this is not a shout out to say you have to do this.
Mhm.
What I'm saying is that if you get to a point where you've gone through 2 or 3 layoffs, maybe 3 or 4, who knows how many. I had a guy one day told me he went through 8. The purpose of it is at one point you're going to say, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to feel that way. I want to do something that's more fulfilling and I want to start that. How do I do that? And that's what the 8 steps are laid out for.
If someone came to you and they were like, hey, I want to start my own business,
Yep.
and the person, based on, how they are, or, their personality, you're like, hmm, there's a lot of, arrow that we're going to have here, or back and forth we're going to have here. What is one strategy as a coach that you could implement for that person to maybe redirect how they view what they want to do? So let me break it down more. Maybe that was
Okay.
too vague.
No, I think I got it, but go ahead. I want to hear.
Okay. So, for example, I came to you and I say, hey, you know what? I want to start a company, but my personality is laid back. And, I keep telling you, hey, I want your service and I want to utilize you. But then whenever we set up meetings, I don't show up.
Yeah.
So, what's one thing you could implement to say, let me see if I could use this to grab this person in? Or is it a case where you're like, okay, I tap out?
So it's interesting you say that because I did have a person like that.
Okay.
So she came to me and, she wanted to do some work with me, but
Mhm.
then she wasn't showing up for the simple meetings before we even got into the juice of things. And I had to kindly bow out. And I told her, it's not anything that she does. People do things in their time.
Yeah.
It wasn't time for her. It wasn't time for her to be in that space because when it's time for you to be in it, you're ready 100%. And she was not ready. It was a tug of war. She was still trying to figure out, when people come to me, they usually have an idea already what they want to do. And I just help build their structure around that. I'm not telling them what to do. I'll help them pull the skills that they need in that job that they're going after or their career they're going after. But I'm not creating that career for them. They come to me and say, I want to do this. I
Yeah.
want to do this, this, and this. And I said, okay, let's build that out. Let's go through some things. Let's pull your skills. But then if you don't show up, I can't do anything about that other than it was scheduled for you. You're not going to bounce me around because you have to bounce around. You're not ready. You're not
Exactly.
ready. So
Exactly.
I kindly tell them that they're not ready. And a lot of times, well, what I did with this individual, and she got it. She understood that.
She understood.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason for, bringing that question up is because, we're talking about corporate breakup and maybe someone's
Yeah.
listening and you're like, hey, I have this idea. Let me go start. But I think many times, we all have crazy ideas and we want to reach to a point where we can, work for ourselves or we can
Yeah.
start, creating something of our own. But if you're not ready, it's going
Not
to be a struggle.
struggle.
It's going to be really hard to pull yourself because the world, the field itself, as we talked about earlier, we have so many things that we want to do and we're all over the place. But it also comes with a not a burden. I wouldn't say a burden, but it comes with responsibility.
Heavy responsibility.
Yeah.
Yes. And you have to be, when I decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, what I knew for sure is that I didn't want to go back to corporate. And that voice was stronger than the voice saying, you want to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
The voice that I had in my head saying, I did this for a long time, I don't want to go back into corporate, was so loud that it helped me create this passion. And then that's when I started to learn I do have skills that I could have gotten from, I have presentation skills. I used to present to some of the CEOs, CFOs, treasurers of these big companies. I'm used to that. I'm used to these are the things I'm used to, and I can build my own career. I worked for someone else all that time doing it, doing an excellent job. And now here I am. I can apply those same tactics to something that I want to do.
Yeah.
So I'm helping people, but I think too, a lot of times people who are a little bit unsure and they want to go back to corporate is because maybe there's no structure around what they want to do
Hmm.
and helping them get forward.
Yeah.
So by the end of my coaching, the results they get, you get a toolkit. I go through the 8 steps. You help develop that with me. So now you can always refer back to it.
Nice. How important is who I am as an individual versus who someone wants me to be? How important is that in your elevator speech?
Be yourself. Always. It's do what's important for you. You did not become an entrepreneur so that you can continue to do something for someone else.
Hmm.
So that is the core of everything. Be who you are. Your message is your message. Think about this. Think about how many coaches are out there. They're everywhere. Everyone's a
Exactly.
coach. So I like
Exactly.
to tell people, when you go to, let's say, a TJ Maxx or a Marshall store and you have, racks full of clothing, right? Say you approach a rack that has all white t-shirts. You go up to that rack and you find the one that fits you. You find the feel that's good for you. You find the size that's good for you. All of them are white. So they're all in this instance, they're all coaches.
Yep.
But you find the one that fits your personality, fits you, and you like the way it feels. It may be different than the one you pick out. You may say, I like this one a little bit better. It fits me better.
Exactly.
That's what you do. And no matter what you do, so there's a lot of competition out there. People will be like, I don't want to talk to her because I do the same thing, or she doesn't. You can't do that because of what I just said. Everyone goes up to that rack and you pick one based on what you like. And so when you use that logic behind it, you're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, I'm sure our personalities right here, we don't wear the same thing. We don't like the same thing. We probably don't
Yep.
like the same thing. But at the same time, we're going to find someone that we're going to, have that bond with or that
Yeah.
relationship with. And we're going to, get to work with that person. So
Yep.
it's not who someone wants you to be, actually. It's who you are. It's
It's
who
who you
you're going to
are.
be. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
definitely who you
A-
are.
And part of my coaching too, I go through, one of the steps goes through personality, where there's an assessment on who you are and how you work in your business. So I also do that with them. And that's usually enlightening because they're like, oh, I start off with the conversation, are you a marathoner or a sprinter?
Mm.
And you work, sometimes you can be both of them. Sometimes situations put you in one or the other. Not Neither one is good or bad. It's just the way you do your work. And a lot of times entrepreneurs are sprinters. They work for a certain period of time and then they move on to something else, and then you got to come back to it. So that's what I was going to say. Be yourself, because you are doing the business and people will find you based on who you are.
Nice. In creating your elevator speech, do you think it's necessary that you practice what you're going to say.
100% of the time. You not only practice what you're going to say, but you practice your cadence in saying it
Mhm.
because you want someone to understand. You don't want to just rattle it on. So I had to practice over and over. Because I had to try to fit a lot in there. And I say all the time, I'm best-selling author of Steal Your Skills from Corporate. I could stop there, but I have to change my cadence and say, and I'm also an entrepreneur coach. But I had to practice that. And I just took it and I practiced it on my phone. I have a recorder and I listen to it. How does this sound when I go, when I go talk to people? How does my voice sound? Does it sound, is it okay? It's all about your breathing, how
Mhm.
you say it. If you got a lot to say, it's like being a singer, they hit those notes, they got to hold it.
Oof.
You do. But the more you practice it, the more comfortable you become with it, and you can just rattle it off. You're like, blah, 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 blah. I can say this, I say the same thing every single time. And it doesn't bother me. I don't think it bothers anybody else. I say it over and over.
Yep.
But it's
I
super important.
Yep. Say to make it become believable.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Not just to those, but to yourself. Because I
Yes.
remember when I just started out, I was doing I was a part of a networking company called For Change People. Not For Change People. Oh, that's my company. It's called Forever Living. So that's the name of the company. And I remember we will go to these meetings all the time, and we'll have like these I think it was just two liners that you had to practice all the time. And I would just sit there and, people would just go at it, and it will say perfect. And I'm like, I can't do that. But then, like, doing the podcast, and I keep saying, hey, my name is Annika Hutchinson. I'm, the founder of this, or, you're listening to For Change People podcast. And I'm like, why is it that, you know, it's my own thing, but sometimes we don't put the work in? But for someone else, like for that networking company, I was just like, I want to get this. I want to get this. And then I was just like, wait, that's the same way we have to go for ourselves.
Yeah, I strongly believe in always practice it.
Mm-hmm.
Always just practice it so that you
Yeah,
can get into those situations where you're at a networking event and you can just blurt it out. And you can go in the chat and write it out too. And you're not stumbling on your words, and you can,
that
like, it becomes, this is what I am. I'm going
nature.
to say the same thing every time.
Yeah,
Yep.
natural to you. It's like second nature
Yeah.
to you. So
Yeah.
before we go, because this was a good chat.
Yeah. Thank you. I love this.
All right, so before we go, I want you to share with us just one thing that you have, taken away from 2020. One thing that, has pushed you forward into 2021, whether that's just personal or business. That's one thing.
I had this conversation with a friend of mine. I said, you know what 2020 did? It brought out the best comedians ever. Have you seen those memes?
Oh, yes.
It has brought out the best comedians and it made me laugh, when I was sad at times. But the one thing that it has done is opened up networking
Yeah.
overall, like over the world.
Mhm.
So from that, I end up getting clients that were overseas because it was a networking event. They heard me speak. They were there, and they're, one guy from Thailand, another lady from Brussels. I had the opportunity to talk to them.
Nice.
It was just one of these things where it opened up the world of people that we would not have gotten an opportunity to see before. So I appreciate that from 2020.
Awesome. Hey, share us Instagram, Facebook. Tell us where we can find you.
Yes, I'm on all social media platforms at K Roddy, Roddy 65. So all of those platforms, go on there, and I'm on there. Even on Clubhouse, it's always K Roddy 65. Or find my website at thecorporatebreakup.com.
Thank you so much for being a part of For Change People. It was
This
so
is
such a
fun.
beautiful conversation about elevator speech and
Yes.
just talking about the entire field.
Yeah, it's your message.
Yeah.
You lead with your message, and people will ask you over and over and over to tell your message. They're going to ask you for your bio. So that is your elevator speech. Hook them in.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Bye.